We love Canadians!
A lot of people around the world seem to think that Americans and Canadians have a lot in common. Today we're in Tampa, Florida, and we're going to ask Americans what they think of Canadians. What are the differences and the similarities? What's the first thing that comes to your mind when you think of Canadians?
Bacon, Justin Bieber, and something about them's like really nice.
Okay, what about you? What do you think?
Yeah, definitely Canadian bacon.
I get the impression that they're nice. That's about it, really. I mean, I know a couple of Canadians and they're nice people. I know that's like a stereotype kind of, but I mean, I don't think it's a bad one. So, yeah, that's the impression I get. I can't really think of any bad ones off the top of my head. Most of it's like they're nice people like that.
Heard some stereotypes, like they're nicer. I know there's big culture around hockey and winter and snow.
That's really cold there.
Very cool.
Yeah.
What are the stereotypes that you guys hear over here in America about Canadians?
I think that it seems pretty peaceful there, well, compared to here, from what I've heard. So,
In what sense do you mean peaceful?
like with politics and things like that.
Montreal, because it's right next to it's like an hour from where I live.
Where do you live?
Plattsburgh.
Oh, okay, that makes a lot of sense. What about you?
I think of hockey mostly, yeah.
Have you guys interacted with a lot of Canadians before? Or?
I haven't even talked to a Canadian once.
I met a guy from Toronto, and he was chill. I liked him. He was nice.
What are the common stereotypes that you guys hear about Canadians over here in America?
I don't really know that much about Canadian stereotypes.
It's just that they're really nice. Like,
Really
that's
nice.
like the most basic stereotype.
What kind of similarities do you think Canadians and Americans share? What are the differences do you think they have?
Start with her.
Well, I feel like it depends where they live, but
Okay.
the guy in Toronto is basically like the same as Americans, I would say.
Very similar, right?
The Canadians there are a lot more polite than the Americans there.
Maybe the healthcare system.
Mhm.
I don't know. I feel like they got a little better than us with the universal healthcare and all that.
Well, one of my teachers is Canadian, and she says that they don't do a lot of like standardized testing in America. That's like a big thing. There's a lot of standardized testing. So, I mean, like maybe that's a difference also. I'm sure like there's a lot of different like politics wise. It's very different. I don't really know, but I mean like stuff like that, like I'm sure they have like different, like the atmosphere is different.
The phone culture.
Yeah, the culture is a little different, but yeah.
Probably attitude and how people interact with each other. And I know there's definitely a lot of people in Canada speak French in like Montreal and Quebec.
I haven't really found too big of a difference, I would think. So
Very similar. In what aspects do you think Canadians and Americans are similar? That's the last question.
Really, honestly, I think the language is relatively the same, really, and we can communicate just fine. So I think that's what we have in common. So that's good.
Can you do a Canadian accent?
Hello, I am Canadian. I don't know. I'm really bad. I know they say like they like instead of like about they say like a boot kind of like I don't know. That's what I've heard though, but what I've seen. But yeah, I like Canadians. I think they're great.
So where are you from?
I was originally born in Nicaragua.
When you hear Canadians, what kind of things do you first think of?
Very nice people.
Mhm.
The whole rendezvous, that's it. It's just really nice people. I have some Canadian friends that say sorry a lot.
What do you think are the differences between the American culture and Canadian culture from your perspective?
The American and Canadian culture, I really don't know because I haven't experienced that much on the Canadian culture. I have like two friends from Canada, but they're very like Americanized, if you can say it that way. So I don't really know.
And in what ways do you think they're similar to each other?
It's similar to
From
each
a
other.
Hispanic person's point of view.
From a Hispanic point of view, they're the same. They look the same. I mean, yeah, Canadians, yeah, they're very similar. They're almost exactly the same, at least from my perspective. Yeah, Canadians are more apologetic and nicer, but other than that, that's about it.
So they're both considered
Very-
like gringos in your country.
Yeah. Even though gringos, technically speaking, gringos are just the Americans. Generally speaking, they would be gringos too.
Like in what aspects do you think Americans and Canadians are similar?
I feel like our cultural preferences are pretty similar.
I would say the same. Our values are, I would say, pretty similar overall, but I don't know, I'm not that well versed in it, in Canadian culture.
No worries. So what kind of stereotypes do you guys hear about Canadian culture here in America or about Canadians?
I feel like no matter where you are, a stereotype from people that don't live where you live is that they can't drive. Like in New York, we think that, like you hear a lot of times Canadians can't drive, but you hear the same thing about like New Jersey can't drive, Florida can't drive. You hear a lot of that.
Really, I've only heard positive stereotypes, like how Canadians are a lot nicer than Americans.
A lot more
Like,
friendly and stuff.
Yeah, a lot more approachable or friendly.